Hi friends, I'm Gio, and welcome to my channel. This story is called Mama's Boy. I'm not happy. I closed my eyes and sighed. Mom had told me to take my 12-year-old sister to the annual fall festival at Butterfield Elementary. Mom was Evelyn Little. She kept her second husband's name. My sister's name was Evelyn Little. Me, I'm Josh Gore, and I have Mom's first husband's name. I have black hair that never curls and black eyes and light olive skin. I've been out of high school for almost a year and a half. Yes, I'm 19, and in case you're wondering, Mom is 36. I live at home, and I pay half the utilities and rent, even though the house was Mom's inheritance when Grandpa died. It amounts to a little over $500 a month, except in the summer. Air conditioning is expensive. We live in Henderson, Nevada, which is barely southeast of Vegas. I don't know where the divide between Vegas and Henderson is. They're kind of blurred together. It's quieter here, better for families. Technically, Emily's my half-sister. We might have different fathers, but we get along. Our dads aren't in the picture. Mom wanted some alone time tonight, involving a skin-tight black leather cat costume, lots of makeup, and a guy named Reed. Her alone time was at a bar with 100 other people, getting totally drop-dead shit-faced. I'm the one who was alone on Halloween. Mom needed me to watch over my half-sister, and, like a good little boy, I obeyed. I was stuck babysitting. Again. It didn't matter what my plans were. As Mom said, we're family. When she can't be there, it's up to me to step up. I'd rather hang out with my friends. We had our own party to go to. Gary had a friend who knew a guy named Chaz, a guy at the frat house, who could get us into their party. All the sorority girls were supposed to be there. Gary's hoping to get laid. I'd rather meet the frat guys. Story is, they're hot. But I can't go tonight. Mom had flushed my social life down into the sewer. Again. She didn't leave me any money to pay for Emily's fun. Once again, it was all on me and my little car wash paycheck. Gary and my friends left as soon as I texted them I couldn't come. I want to go to the fish pond, Emily said. That's for little kids, I muttered. You so don't know anything, Emily said. She grabbed some of the tickets from my hand and walked over there anyway. And I soon understood why. A guy from her class was there. They began talking. Emily would never admit to a crush, but I bet she had one. Kids would trade tickets for a fishing pole with a magnet on it, throw the line over a mural decorated like a fish tank, and a second later pull the line in with a prize. The guy got a comic book. My sister got some lip gloss. She whipped out her phone, answered a quick text, and put the phone back in her pocket. I followed her over to the pond, standing a polite distance away, bored, next to another guy also standing a polite distance away. A little over 6 feet tall, he wore a pale green tank top and cut-off khaki shorts and dark leather sandals. His left arm had a sleeve of multicolored tattoos, the biggest being a tiger on his shoulder. He kept his sandy hair neat and short. The green in his clothes brought out the green in his eyes. The only phrase that described him was, "Can I keep him?" I couldn't take my eyes off him. You waiting too? I asked, trying hard not to flirt. Nope, I'm currently Zen skinny dipping. Brandon is my brother. I'm Derek, he said. Josh, and that's my little sister Emily. What's Zen skinny dipping? I asked. It's what you do when you can only stand and think about doing something. In this case, I finished tuning up my bike and I was going to take it out and cut her loose on the highway. That didn't work out. Derek nodded toward his brother. I guess he got roped into last-minute babysitting too. But it's Halloween, I asked. Best time. Everybody is at parties, so the highways are almost clear, Derek said. Looks like Emily and Brandon know each other, I said, nodding in their direction. In a few minutes, 3 other kids joined Emily and Brandon. Do you ever get the feeling you're being used? Emily and Brandon and their friends must have agreed to meet here by the fish pond and never told us, Derek said. After a barely I need some money, and a brief pause while I handed her some. Emily and her friends were gone. It's expensive being a big brother, Derek said. He just gave away money to his little brother, just like I did for Emily. Do you want to get a fritter while the kids goof off? I asked, a swirl of nerves in my stomach. The problem, I was kind of asking Derek out. I liked this guy, but nobody knew I was gay. I didn't dare come out, not with the way Mom was. What would Derek think if I told him? Some 6-year-old kid was standing looking at the fish pod. What the hell? I wasn't going to use them anyway. I gave the rest of my tickets to the kid. A moment later, he screamed when he saw his prize. Whatever it was, he sure liked it. The rest of the night, Derek and I walked our siblings and their friends around to all the booths while Derek and I talked about everything. About 9, we went to a nearby diner with Brandon and Emily and ate burgers and fries until 10:30. Derek and I swapped smiles and numbers, and is it too early to kiss somebody on an accidental first date? He probably didn't even know I thought of him like that. Emily and I went home. Mom wasn't home yet, which didn't surprise me. She wouldn't be home until midnight, or later. Guess what did surprise me? Derek texted, "You want to go for a ride?" I sent him my address, and 10 minutes later, we rode along the streets for an hour. We went out to the highway, and he showed me some speed. The next morning, Emily screamed, "Josh!" It wasn't any scream, but one of pure panic. I woke, jumped out of bed, and followed her screams. She was in the kitchen, still screaming. A strange man wearing only black boxer briefs had a red face, and his jaw was wide open. He was staring at her. "Who are you?" I yelled, grabbing a chair to defend myself and my sister. "Who are you?" he yelled, hands raised. "Get out of our house. Emily, call the police," I shouted. "Your house? Evelyn, get down here. Who are these people?" he yelled. A weird feeling settled in my gut. Was this half-naked guy Mom's Halloween fling? She brought him back to our house? Was I disgusted? "Stop, everybody, don't move. Emily, stop screaming. Read, these are my kids I was telling you about," Mom said, wrapping a robe around her as she came into the kitchen. "Josh, Emily, what are you doing up so early? I was going to explain everything at breakfast." "Look at the clock. It's way past breakfast time, Mom," I said. "I have to leave for school in 5 minutes. You are taking me, right? I can't be late," Emily said. Mom looked at the time on the stove and had the grace to say, "Oops." "Why is this man in our kitchen?" I asked. "This isn't any man. This is Reed. He proposed to me last night," Mom said, holding out her hand with an engagement ring on the ring finger. Emily and I both looked at each other, mindlessly saying, "Here comes husband number 3. And I verbally said, "Give me 5 to get ready." I took Emily to school on my way to college. I'm studying to be a computer programmer. One of my instructors, Marion Hammer, was one of the developers for a new type of router, and she taught us some pretty cutting-edge stuff. Every time I got home, I picked up the mail and took it to Mom. She usually sat at her computer working and yelling at her sister, Madeline. Every time they talked, they fought. I suspect Mom was addicted to Facebook. She quickly sorted the mail and placed the useful stuff into a brown accordion file. She had one for every year for the last decade or more. Somewhere in the week or so after we met Reed, he moved in. Mom kept a tidy room and made me and Emily keep her house tidy. Yippee, have kids and get free cleaning. Reed didn't have to do anything. Today was payday. I pay $500 every paycheck to keep the family with electricity, gas, and internet and groceries. The rest goes to tuition. We aren't poor, but not that far from there either. For the next couple of weeks, in between classes and work, Derek and I hung out or texted as I built up the courage to do something weird. I quit my old part-time job at the car wash and found a new full-time job working at the Butte Steakhouse as a busser and waiter. It paid better, and I got medical, and sometimes the tips were good. Weekends were our busiest times, but I traded shifts with a friend to get a Friday night off. I asked Derek to dinner and a movie, a thriller called The Spy Next Door. And during the end credits, when everybody was leaving and we were alone, the moment seemed right. "I really like hanging out with you. Thanks for being my friend," I said, making sure no one was around. Derek suddenly tensed. An odd half-smile flickered across his face. Hindsight 2020, I sounded like a total needy dweeb. I had never been so terrified in my life. Could I tell Derek I loved him? Did I dare? Would he reject me? How did he feel about gay men? I wasn't terrified. I was petrified. I leaned over and lightly kissed Derek on his cheek. It was just a little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny, barely a peck kind of kiss. If Mom found out, she'd disinherit me and would tell the world that I was the worst son ever. I could never show my face to the family, ever again. What was I thinking? My world was about to collapse. What if Derek hit me, slapped me, called me names? What if he jumped up, screamed at me? What if he told my mom? What if he didn't want to see me again? Why had I kissed him? He was the first person I'd ever told about the real me. Would he reject me? I stared at Derek, seeking any kind of sign. Did he approve? Did he hate me? Derek placed his hand on mine, his breath warm, and he whispered, "Your hand is really cold." I was only a foot from him, and we leaned together and kissed. A real kiss with lips and smiles, and I chuckled, and it lasted 10 seconds. My heart had never beat that fast in my life, and I had never smiled that big before. We hopped on his bike and drove to the diner, took the third booth on the right. We were holding hands and talking and smiling and just being with each other. My phone rang. Mom, her voice sweet. "Honey, good job on keeping your grades up. I'm proud of you." "How do you know about my grades?" I asked. "It's a mother's job to know things, but that's not important. I need a favor. It's getting dark and I want you to come home. Right now, please." "Mom, I'm 19 and it's only 8:30. We just sat down to eat," I said. "Only bad sons argue with their mother, and you're not a bad son. Come home now. Your sister needs help with her math, and I don't know how to do it," she sweetly said. "Can I bring my friend?" I asked. "Does he know how to do math?" Mom said. Mom suddenly hung up, giggling about something. "You're 19? Do you always jump when your mom commands?" Derek whispered. I gave Derek a little smile as I stood up and said, "I want to be a good son. I had a really good time tonight." That was the worst way to end a date. Derek would dump me. Instead, he gave my hand a small squeeze and said, "Date's not over. We are only changing locales. Let's go." I held him and couldn't stop smiling. I got back home to find Mom had gone out with Reed. My sister didn't need help with math. She never does. Mom wanted free babysitting. "Is this your boyfriend?" Emily asked. I froze. If I said yes and it got back to Mom, she'd get mad. If I said no, I'd insult Derek. "Maybe someday. We just started dating," Derek said. My life was over. My little sis knew. "I can explain," I said. "It's about time you came out, and I won't tell Mom," she said. My shoulders relaxed and I said, "How did you know?" She put her hands on her hips and smugly said, "I have eyes." Well, Emily talked on her phone all night. Me and Derek sat on the front porch and talked all night. About 3 a.m, I got a text from Mom. "Congratulate us. We got married. Won't be back for a week. Be a good boy and take care of your sister." A week? Really? Between my job and college, how could I do this? Good thing Emily was so smart. The weekend after they got back, Reed moved more stuff in. Derek, Emily, and I helped him while Mom stood on the porch yelling orders. "Who is this?" Mom said, referring to Derek. When we were finished, I bit the bullet and took hold of Derek's hand and maybe a little too loudly said, "This is my boyfriend." Mom's sweet smile disappeared and she yelled, "My son has a boyfriend. What's wrong with you?" "Mom, be nice," Emily said. "Josh, we'll talk about this later," Mom said. She remained civil until Derek had left. I don't approve of him, and I don't approve of you being gay. He has tattoos and rides a motorcycle. You know what kind of people those are. Now be a good boy, obey your mother, and dump him immediately." "I really like him, Mom, and I'm not going to dump him. You can kick me out, but I'm going to be me. I'll pack right now," I said. Mom's face clouded over and she clenched her fists. "Don't you love your mom anymore? Don't you want to be a good boy?" "Don't be like this," I said, going to my room to pack a bag. Mom whirled and walked away. She and Reed went out drinking. Sometime later, when they got home, I was sitting on the porch. Derek had come to pick me up. His dad said I could move in with them. Mom and Reed walked up to me. Mom sweetly said, "I'm sorry, honey, but you took me by surprise. Give me a hug and tell me everything is all better. I won't let my baby boy move out. And to celebrate, I'll make your favorite dinner." It seemed like everything was settled, until a week later, when Mom announced that I would give up my bedroom because my stepdad needed an office. All that stuff we moved in? His office. A self-employed accountant, starting his own accounting firm. He did a lot of work from home, including video conferencing with clients, and needed the room. I divided up the finances 3 ways: me, Mom, and Reed. Stupid me. Mom took the list, glanced at it, and set it down, never to be seen again. "Honey, we have other concerns. The roof is leaking and the toilet doesn't flush right. We need to fix this place up. Be a good boy and contribute $1,000 a month." "Why?" "What? Why can't Reed help?" I asked. Reed said, "I'm just starting my business and I have no extra money." And Mom sweetly said, "With that great full-time job of yours, we can count on you to take care of the family." "Where do I sleep? The living room?" I asked. "My baby boy is so cute when he's pouting. You shouldn't worry. Your new father needs that room more than you do. But don't worry. We'll section off a part of the living room, and I'll make up the couch for my precious son. It will be your space. That reminds me, how much do you get paid a month?" "Why?" I said. Her eyes widened a little, and for a second her lips frowned before curling into a smile. "Oh, baby, don't get angry. Finances are tight right now. Be a good son and give your loving mom $1,000 so I can pay bills and buy food. We need it every month," she said. "I can't do that. I'm saving for tuition and my own apartment," I said. "Don't be selfish, Josh. Think about your sister, about the new direction our life is headed. We need that money as a family, especially now. Reed's daughter is moving in," she said. "Where will she stay?" I asked. "She's only a few years younger than your sister, so they'll share," Mom said. "I'll solve the problem and move out," I said. No, I didn't mean to offend you. Please don't leave me alone. You are my favorite child, and we need your help. Besides, you wouldn't abandon your family. Not your loving mother. I gave birth to you. I love you, and I need your help to pay for the household. College can wait a semester or 2, and apartments are very expensive. Better you live here. Do this for me, for our new family. Please," Mom sweetly said. "Well, maybe I can wait a few months," I said. "Anything for the family, including putting my dreams on hold." A thin sliver of bitterness began to form in my soul. Mom sweetly smiled and said, "It's settled then. I'll expect the money the day you get paid, and you won't regret it. Sunday, I'll make your favorite dinner, a pot roast with carrots and potatoes simmered in that sauce that only your mom can make." They made a tiny space in the living room for me. The only problem, well, 2 actually. My new stepsister kept playing with my CDs and PS4 and my games and my flat screen, especially when I wasn't around. She was a rage gamer, and when she died, she broke things, like my controllers or an action figure I had as a kid, even my flat screen. Reed was nice enough to replace my controllers and flat screen. My stepsister also ate in my bed, leaving crumbs and wrappers. I had to shake my bedding out every night. That is, until I bought a light bulb security camera and aimed it at my stuff. She didn't bother me or my things again. It was a nice camera, good resolution, good sound quality, and motion activated. It even notified me when it was on. When Emily saw that nobody bothered my stuff now, she kept her diary and a few personal possessions with me. 3 months later, Reed and Mom were on the couch, making out and watching a movie. I walked in. "Aren't you guys done yet? I need to get to sleep. I have class and then my shift." "There's only an hour left on the show," Stepdad said. "This is my bedroom, so I need you to leave," I said. Stepdad jumped up and yelled, "Don't give us orders. We are the parents here. You will respect us." "This sucks rocks. I'm going to Derek's," I said, grabbing my wallet and car keys. Mom put on her angry face. "You know I don't like that guy." "Mom, you don't like any of my friends," I said. "Evelyn, how could you raise such a selfish, rude son? Josh, if you can't handle what your parents say, then move out," Stepdad said. "Good idea," I said, heading to the door. Mom's face completely changed and she said, "Josh, don't you move. Reed, come with me and let's talk." Mom grabbed Stepdad's hand and dragged him into the room that used to be my bedroom. I couldn't hear what they said, but a minute later my stepdad came out and said, "Work didn't go as expected, and I got angry at you. I was out of line. Please accept my apologies." Mom came over and whispered, "Don't worry about a thing. I'll make you an enchilada casserole tomorrow, and I'll make it with your favorites like that special cheese you like and pulled pork, the sweet kind, not the spicy kind, and I'll make lots of enchilada sauce just for you, and those chocolate drop cookies that only your mom can make. Oh, that reminds me, if it's not too much trouble, your sister needs an extra $50. She's in the cheer squad now, and the uniforms were more expensive than I budgeted. I promise to pay you back. Be a dear, okay? I love you." I told Derek about it, and he said, "Don't you see it? Your mom is playing you." "No, she's not. Mom loves me," I said. My mom and stepdad had been married for 6 months, and I had turned 20 when I committed the ultimate sin against the family. I'd bought a couple of pizzas for all of us to share, and when we walked in, Mom and stepdad were making something in the kitchen. My sister was at the dining room table working on homework. My stepsister was in the living room texting people. We walked into the kitchen, held our hands so everybody could see the glitter of gold on our ring fingers, and I said, "Hey, everybody, I proposed to Derek," and he said yes. We picked out an apartment, and we are going to move in together. Mom's face went white. I kissed Derek right in front of everybody. My sister hugged both me and Derek. My stepsister didn't move. I don't know what reaction I had been expecting from Mom and Reed, but I wasn't expecting what happened. Mom whirled, took me by the arm, and marched me out back. Not quite out of Derek's hearing. She whispered, loud enough to make sure Derek heard, "It is not a good time to get married or move out. Don't you know what happened? Of course not. You haven't been home. The car died. It needs a new radiator and new tires. The battery has gone out, and the alternator is shot. That's going to cost a lot of money, and we don't have it. How do you expect me to get to work? You are an idiot to even think about getting married at a time like this. And to Derek, you know I don't like him. He's not good for you." "Mom, Derek and I love each other. We think we can make this work," I said. Mom patted my face. "I've suspected you fell in love, but he's taking you away from your family, from me, from your responsibilities. He's not thinking about you. That kind of man is just like your father. He wouldn't stand by me, and Derek will leave you as soon as he sees a pretty face. Promise me you'll stay with the family who loves me. With me." "Mom," I said, "promise your dear mother on your grandfather's soul that you will stay here. We need you here. I raised you even after your father left, so you owe me. Besides, I love you. No man can give you the love like a mother can," Mom sweetly said. "Mom," I said, but I was already beginning to cave. "I know you want to be independent, but not this year. Promise me you'll stay," Mom said. "I'll stay for you, Mom. Can Derek have dinner with us? He is my fiancé," I said, struggling to hide the pain. "Sorry, honey. I don't like him, and I don't give my blessing for this marriage, and I don't give you permission to move out. You will break up with him tonight," Mom sweetly ordered. Derek only nodded when I told him what Mom had said. He'd heard everything anyway. His brows had lowered, and his mouth was a grim line. His only comment, "Once again, you do whatever your mommy tells you. Someday think for yourself. When that happens, call me." Damn, who am I kidding? That won't happen. I've been patient enough. It's time to do like your mommy orders and move on. He handed me back the wedding ring and walked out the door. For the first time I can remember, I screamed at Mom, "You ruined everything." I didn't even have a room to run away to. I went to my corner of the living room, lay down on my mattress, and ugly cried. Mom came over to me with a plate and some pizza and some cookies and sweetly said, "It's okay, honey. Mom is here. Derek wasn't good for you anyway." I screamed, "Go away. I hate you," and kept screaming it until she left. Derek and I had been together for almost a year, and watching him leave broke something inside me. A soft hand rested on my shoulder. Emily's. She silently cried and whispered, "I hate her too." Derek didn't return any of my calls or texts, and I gave up after a few days. It was hopeless. I couldn't stand up to my mom. I couldn't stand up for myself. Life became hollow. I stopped eating, and whatever Mom wanted, I just said, whatever. My manager at the steakhouse called me into her office. "Josh, is something going on? Your work performance has suffered, and I'm getting complaints about you. You're mixing up orders. Your response time is slow. Don't get me started about the problems with the drinks. You haven't showered and don't take care of yourself. It's not like you. You're depressed, and I'm worried about you. Want to talk about it?" "Nothing I'd like to talk about, ma'am," I said. "Unfortunately, this is a warning. If things don't improve in the next 2 weeks, you'll be moving on," she said. I was a zombie and didn't care. Derek was gone, and it hurt. I didn't even tell Mom I was in trouble at work. When I got home, Mom was waiting for me with a slice of her homemade apple pie. "I know you're still mad at me, but I was only thinking of you. So please forgive me, but you'll see I was right. Derek is out of your life, and that is a good thing." "Whatever," I said, walking my exhausted body to my little bed and sitting down on it. "Josh, I need you to listen. I know the timing is bad, but we have a family emergency. Your Aunt Madeline had a nasty fall and broke her hip. She's in the hospital. Reed and I and your sisters are leaving this weekend to see what we can do, but we need $5,000 to help pay her medical bills. Insurance only covers so much. I and Reed don't have the money, but Madeline needs help right away. Please, I know you have it," Mom sweetly said. "How did you know?" I asked. "Moms know things," she said. "It's the last of my college fund. I won't have any money left," I said. "I'm sorry, baby, if it wasn't an emergency," Mom sweetly said. The next day I got her the money. My dreams were no more, and I was about to get fired, and the man I loved left me. I laid in my bed, staring at the ceiling, while Mom and Reed went out drinking. With Derek gone, I had no one to talk to. Gary never understood my mom, and Mom didn't like him anyway. I felt so alone, so useless, so hurting. That night at the steakhouse, sometime between hauling stuff to the dishwasher and prepping a table for a new guest, I got an alert on my phone. My camera had recorded something. Somebody messed with my stuff. Stepdad was searching through my things and said, "That was close. You almost lost everything. What are you going to do when your precious boy wakes up and smells your dirty socks? He'll move out." Mom smugly said, "Not going to happen. One slice of pie or a home-cooked pot roast and Josh will obey his mom. Happens every time." My stepsister stepped into view and pointed at the camera. "You know Josh is listening." "We were talking about a movie, my precious boy," Mom sweetly said. Everybody stepped away from my little area, and after a minute, the motion sensor switched everything off. The next day, Mom and Reed and the girls left for their 10-day trip before I woke up. Madeline lived in Seattle, 17 hours away, a 2-day drive, unless Mom and Reed pushed it. I wasn't invited to come. partly because I needed to work, and because I wasn't in the mood to go out. I went to work and saw my boss. She'd be too busy for me, call me crazy, but I asked her anyway. "Do you have a minute? Were you serious about wanting to talk?" We spoke for 15 minutes, and I told her the short version of the disaster of my life. Halfway through, she got up and closed the door because I got emotional. My boss only shook her head. "You need someone to talk to. Do you have anybody?" "Not really," I whispered, staring at the floor. My life must be really bad for me to confide in my boss. "Here's what I'm going to do," she said. "You need some time to get your head together. You haven't been here long enough to earn vacation, but I'll give you a leave of absence. We'll call it medical leave, and I'll forward your next paycheck so you can survive. Take 2 weeks, then come back. My advice? I bet your mom has your bank information, so it's time to change banks. Do that on the way home, and then you need to practice saying no. From now on, when you say no, mean it. Don't give an answer or an excuse or explain anything. Just say no. If they harass you, beg, or plead, it shows they don't respect you. Walk away. Tonight, go home, make a huge bowl of cheap, cheesy noodles, and find someone to talk to." It took 90 minutes to move the little bit of money I had left and close my checking and savings account. I learned that Mom's name was still on them. Once done, I found the first bank at random and opened a new checking, savings, and credit card under my name only. For the first time, I felt free and really scared. Mom would be pissed when she found out. That scared me even more. The only family I knew of was Aunt Madeline. I could talk to her, but first I would need a phone number. Mom kept every important paper in her brown accordion files in her closet. She had a file for every year. Mom kept receipts and bill invoices for at least a decade. Who does that? It felt wrong to enter her bedroom and open her closet, and I couldn't stop shaking. Even though she took a bunch of clothes with her, the closet looked untouched. How many handbags, shoes, necklaces, dresses, hats, bracelets does one woman need? They had labels like Vuitton, Dolce & Gabbana, and Hermes. Some still had prices attached. The amount of money she spent made me sick, and I began to suspect it all came from me. I looked around, making sure Mom wasn't around. My heart beat too fast. Would I have a heart attack? Oh God, was I scared. What if Mom returned? Placing the current accordion file on the bed, I opened it. Aunt Madeline's number must be in here somewhere. I needed to talk to somebody. Could I get a hold of her before Mom and Reed got there? I ignored the section on utility bills and, on a whim, pulled out her credit card statements. Shit. How can one purse cost so much? She must go to the salon weekly, and not to mention her manicure and pedicure appointments. Her special homemade treats she got from the bakery, and her homemade dinners she got from the restaurant down the street. The next section contained a record of how much child support she was getting for Emily and alimony. It also had the amounts my biological father had been sending for my college. He had sent enough to cover my tuition and books since I graduated high school. That didn't make sense. I paid for my own tuition, and it was why I was always broke. Unless Mom pocketed the money my dad had sent and charged me rent as well. No wonder she didn't want me to leave. I was her cash cow. She also received alimony from Emily's dad and his child support. Mom also took money from me for any kind of random purpose. Mom worked a little part-time job and got paid for it, so somehow she was also getting a welfare check. Looking at the name on the credit card receipt scared me. She bought everything under my name. An intense horror filled my chest, and I was getting a headache. Mom made more a week than I made at the steakhouse in a month. I took pictures of the credit card bills. No wonder she could afford to party all the time and buy expensive junk, while the rest of us lived poor. My stomach heaved. What else would I discover? Grandpa's will. That sick feeling got worse. Grandpa had left me $50,000 with Mom as my conservator. Mom had spent it all. I wanted to throw up. In the final section, I found where Mom stored her phone numbers and passwords to every account she owned, including Aunt Madeline's number, including the unlock code for her laptop and her phone, and my laptop and phone, and Reed's as well. Everybody's in the house. How did she get these? Hidden cameras? No. I bet she installed a keystroke reader app that emailed her weekly reports. She probably had spyware on our phones and computers. Why would she ask me for money when she could go directly to my account and take it? Was she trying to keep her access secret? Or was she playing some kind of sick humiliation game? I bet she was ruining my life as a way to get revenge on my dad for divorcing her. I couldn't think straight. Life had gotten worse. I took a couple of aspirin because my head pounded. I called Aunt Madeline. "Hello," she said. Some TV program was in the background, and it quickly lowered in volume. "It's me, Josh, your nephew. I wanted to talk to you before Mom and Reed and my sisters arrived. Do you have a minute? Are they there yet?" I asked. "What do you mean? I'm about to have guests?" she asked, a note of concern rising in her voice. "They left for Seattle this morning to help you recover from your fall. You broke your hip and are in the hospital, right?" I asked, and suddenly I became suspicious. "No, what are you talking about? I'm in a jacuzzi at this bed and breakfast up at Cape Sodhurst in Maine with my girlfriends. Well, your uncle is spending the weekend golfing with his friends down in Texas. I haven't broken anything, and I'm not expecting any visitors," she said. "You're not even in Seattle? Mom lied?" I asked. There was a loud sigh before Madeline said, "Let me get comfortable and then tell me everything." I did, including the finances. Madeline sighed again and said, "Evelyn is being sneaky, again. They're on a 10-day cruise up to Alaska." "Did it cost $5,000? I paid for that from my college fund. I thought I was helping you," I said. Lordy Lord, Evelyn's done it again. I love you for trying to help me. Thanks for the thought, but I'm fine. Evelyn's acting the same as when we were kids. Hell, I'm the wrong person to talk to. Here's the number of somebody who would really be interested in hearing about this. Let me give you 2 numbers. "Won't Mom be mad at you?" I said. "Let's just say I'm getting even because Evelyn did something similar to me. By the way, she'll never pay you back," Aunt Madeline said. We talked for a few minutes, and then we closed the call. I had some work to do. No way would I call those numbers. Not until I got my phone cleaned up. I went to see Gary. He removed the spyware apps from my phone in no time. My laptop he'd get to this weekend. The price? Dinner at the steakhouse once I had finances again. After my phone was cleaned up, I changed my passcodes on everything I could find, from library cards to college. Then I canceled the credit cards Mom had taken out in my name. Mom would be pissed. Boy, was I scared. Once I calmed down, I called the first number my aunt had given me. I didn't know who would be on the other end. The voice that answered was one I hadn't heard for more than a decade. My heart stopped and the tears started. I could never forget his voice, no matter how much time had passed. "Hi, Dad," I said, forcing the waver out of my voice and failing. I spoke fast because I was scared. I couldn't stop being scared. "I don't want money or a kidney, and you can say no because we haven't seen each other for a long time, but my life is screwed up and I just need someone to talk to. I'm sorry to bother you." He started crying, and then he said, "We'll put the coffee pot on and put fresh sheets on the spare bed. Come on over and get some dinner." He gave me his address. It wasn't in Nevada, but someplace called Peach Springs in Arizona. Whoever invented the GPS and Google Maps, I could kiss you. I took Highway 93, drove 2.5 hours, saw some amazing rock formations and amazing skies, until I finally reached Peach Springs, Arizona, a town deep in the heart of the Hualapai Indian Reservation and not far from the Grand Canyon. One of its points of interest, the Skywalk, 100 feet of clear walkway that let one stare down into the Grand Canyon. The brown accordion folder and all its papers sat in the passenger seat next to my duffel. When I got to Dad's door, the smells of fresh coffee and home-baked bread and spicy tacos met me. Dad didn't even wait for me to knock, but came out and gave me a hug and introduced his wife and his 2 children, and I had dinner with them. And Dad and my stepmom and I talked until way too late. I learned that Mom took full custody because Dad joined the military. He went to career Navy and would still be there, except an accident ruined his leg. He had a medical discharge, a nice pension, and after my 10th birthday, Mom never allowed him to see me. He paid child support every month, sent me gifts, was paying for my college, but I never saw any of that. It added up to 6 digits. Based on her bank statements and credit card statements, Mom spent it all on herself. The next day, Dad took off work. He's a dispatcher at the sheriff's department, and I learned he was half Native American. We visited several places, including Grandma's. She's full-blooded Hualapai, and more important, she's family, which is why Dad settled here, got a job here, and married a girl from Tempe. Dad had me leave my phone at his place. Josh, take a break from life for a couple of days. We drove to the skywalk and stood at the edge of infinity. Few people were here, though Dad said sometimes it gets very crowded. Looking down at how impossibly deep the canyon was, my stomach got that same feeling it got on the edge of the high dive. Queasy and nervous because there was nothing underneath us for thousands of feet, clear down to the bottom of the canyon. The colors in the rocks, the odd shapes of the rocks, the distant foliage. It was beautiful. The quietness was peaceful, healing. The soft breeze was warm. Dad placed an arm around my shoulders and we talked. I wanted to show Derek all this. I wanted him to meet my dad. But I have to get real. That's never going to happen. I'll never see Derek again. I've ruined everything, just like life ruined me. Dad held me as the emotion surged through me. People stared, but we didn't care. In a weird way, among people I didn't know, having lost everything, at the very worst moment of my life. I was home. I was safe. I felt loved. I didn't feel scared. On my 3rd day there, Dad had me talk to one of his buddies from the sheriff's department. We spoke for 2 hours, and it woke up the fear inside me. The guy from the sheriff department took the accordion file with him. On my 5th day there, Dad and stepmom sat me down. I have a friend I work with, and he owns an apartment about half a mile from here. Why don't you go back to Henderson, get your things, and come back here? We'll find you a job, and you can restart your life. You'll let me live here? Near you? I said. We have a saying around here, Dad said, giving me a smile. Life is like the wind. You never know what or who will blow your way. Treasure the moment. My heart has had a hole for too long, and seeing you mends my heart. You'll always have a home with us. I called Aunt Madeline and updated her. She invited me to come visit someday, when she's back in Seattle. Before I left Dad, I called the second number Aunt Madeline had given me. The number was Emily's dad. We had an interesting conversation. I drove back to Henderson, a little slower than when I drove down, but a lot calmer. Oh crap, I forgot my phone. It was sitting on its charger back on Dad's counter. I stopped by the steakhouse first and talked to my boss. I told her everything and how I was moving down there. She made a call. It turns out that the steakhouse had a sister steakhouse down there. They always needed a busser or a server. I have a job. I promised to refund her the money, and she hugged me and said, "No rush." I dropped by Gary's place, but he wasn't home, so I left a message with his roommate. Then I drove past Derek's place, but his bike wasn't around. I silently said goodbye. I would never see him again. I could never tell him how sorry I was, how much I hurt. Finally, I went to my old house. I'd lived here all my life, and in spite of what I learned about Mom, I remember the place fondly. There were some good times here, but somehow learning how Mom had used me soured them. Terrified, I entered the house and walked around a minute, trying to get my heart to stop beating so fast. I took one last look at the kitchen. It was all a lie. When I looked in Mom's room, there was a search warrant from the Henderson PD on the bed, and her computer and all her brown accordion files were gone. I should feel guilty because I had started this, but I only felt sad and scared. Out of curiosity, I looked in Reed's office. His computer was gone as well. My mattress wouldn't fit in the car, but the rest of my clothes, my games, my old flat screen did. After my car was packed, I left a simple note where my sister always did her homework. "Emily, call this number as soon as possible. Your dad is coming to rescue you. Tell Evelyn the bank is closed. Josh." Since I wasn't coming back to this place, I left the key on the kitchen table and locked the door behind me. This chapter of my life was over. Almost. A car pulled up, and Gary jumped out and ran to me. He handed me my laptop. "My roommate said you're moving to Arizona. What about college?" Gary said. "I'll go online once I get my finances back together." And I told him everything. We promised to keep in touch, and I said, "If you see Derek, tell him I'm sorry." Gary only nodded. We hugged, and he opened my car door for me. "You call me when your new place is ready, because I'm throwing the welcoming party. I'll bring all the guys." A second car pulled up, with Reed and Mom and my sister and my stepsister in it. Mom jumped out. She wasn't smiling sweetly. "What are you doing? Where are you going?" "Moving out," I said. Mom put her hands on her hips and bellowed, "I won't let you." "You have no say in the matter. You weren't supposed to be home for another 3 days. Why back so early?" I said. Mom pouted. "My bank froze my accounts, and all my credit cards were declined, and when I went to access your accounts, I found they didn't exist. What have you done?" "Why are you trying to access my accounts? Those are private," I said. "I'm your loving mother, and I needed the money," Mom said. If this kept up, Mom would do her best to get me on her side. I did not want that. What did my boss say? "No excuses. No explanations. Just say, 'No more,'" I said. "But it's an emergency," Mom sweetly said. "Then sell your purses." "No," I said. "You can't leave," Mom said. "Watch me," I said, smiling. "You will stay here with your family. I demand it. Don't disobey me," Mom yelled. I looked at her, my heart trembling, and for a second I couldn't speak. I've been afraid of her all my life, and standing up to her was the hardest thing I had ever done. In spite of the hurricane of emotions inside me, I said, "No." "I need you to stay," Mom said. "No." "I'll make you your favorite dinner. You'll like that," Mom said. "No," I said. Mom's hand whipped out faster than I could follow and slapped me, forcing me back. "You will obey me because I am your mother." "No. Goodbye, Evelyn," I said, and climbed into my car. Mom had the dumbest look as I drove away. I spent 3 hours driving back to Peach Springs, stopping at a diner to eat and think about the mess of my life. My life felt weird. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. I was in free fall, spinning like crazy. The only direction I had was away from Mom. I was scared. I pulled up to Dad's place, parking behind a familiar bike. Derek's. My eyes teared. Derek came out the front door. We both smiled at the same time. Dad was behind him and said something I couldn't hear. Derek nodded, hesitated a moment, then walked towards me. "I called to see how you were doing, and your stepmom answered. Your dad explained everything and said you needed a friend. Will I do?" A moment later, we hugged. Being held in his arms kept the fear away, and I relaxed. A few months later, our engagement was back on track. Derek needed a place to stay, permanently, so he stayed with me. On the day of our wedding, we got a surprise present. The forensic accountant back in Vegas had had fun. Mom was sentenced to 10 years for welfare fraud, tax evasion, conservator fraud, identity theft, assault, and misuse of child support. She had to pay restitution to me, Dad, Emily, and Emily's dad. To do so, she had to have someone sell the house because she was in jail. Reed did that. Emily lives with her dad up in Reno, and we text from time to time. Reed divorced Evelyn and remarried. I quit the steakhouse and now work for Marion Hammer and her software firm. She lets me work remotely down in Peach Springs. Derek works for an advertising firm in Vegas, and he also works remotely. His desk is next to mine in our apartment. Whenever I get scared, my husband holds me, whispers he loves me, and then he finds some way to distract me. It usually involves turning off our phones. I'm finally happy. The end. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for this story. I appreciate it. We'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.